deriving from thermodynamics, some 30 years after industrial technology, and the beginning of the organological revolution that lay at the origin of after the Steel Age redefines the question of science, given that the relation entropy-negativity is really the question of life. It is with respect to such perspectives that we must think organologically and pharmacologically what we should in fact call anthropocene and neganthropology the content I didn't know. The contemporary anthropocene is a test of the thinking in all its forms, as knowledge of how to do, of how to live, and how to conceptualize, and as such it requires a new critical attention, especially given that what counts rational cosmology is incapable of taking into account these precise organological questions. If the schematism originally derives from technical interpretation and the theory of entropy deriving from thermodynamics, the theory of entropy deriving from thermodynamics, some 30 years after industrial technology, and the beginning of the organological revolution that lay at the origin of after the Steel Age redefines the question of science, given that the relation entropy-negativity is really the question of life. It is with respect to such perspectives that we must think organologically and pharmacologically what we should in fact call anthropocene and neganthropology. The content I didn't know. The contemporary anthropocene is a test of the thinking in all its forms, as knowledge of how to do, of how to live, and how to conceptualize, and as such it requires a new critical attention, especially given that what counts rational cosmology is incapable of taking into account these precise organological questions. If the schematism originally derives from technical interpretation and the artificialization of the earth, as I attempted to show several new techniques, the subtitle of which was Time of Thinking, was actions of question, as a constant thinking question spirit by itself, that is by its concretizations and its externalizations, such as the tragedy of Clairol as described by Adorno. Okay? If then schematism originally derives from technical externalization and the artifactualization of the world, as I said, then this affects not just of the world, but of the cosmos. The domain of philosophy, the cosmos is thought as identity and as equilibrium, in a way that was not the case, however, for Socrates. This opposition between equilibrium of ontological origin and this corrupted, which is not corruptible beings techniques constitutes the organological condition and is related to the superluminary as the word of contingency, as that which can be otherwise than that it is with technical memory, and as such finds itself excluded from thought. Such a position, however, is no longer tenable in the Anthropocene era, and as such it constitutes an unprecedented epistemic crisis. The advent of the thermodynamic machine, which is the eragnist of the Industrial Revolution and of its step, which showed the human world to be one characterized by fundamental disturbance in Strive's processuality, the irreversibility of thought, and the instability of equilibrium in which all differences at the core of physics. The thermodynamic machine, in which physics poses the new and specific problem of the dissipation of energy, is also an industrial technical object that fundamentally disturbs social organization, with the result that it radically alters the understanding that design being there at its being. Then, being there is techniques. These technical objects, of which Watt's flyball governor will prove a key element at the center of the cybernetic conception. This technical object has essentially combusted, introduced on both the astrophysical plane, which replaces mythological cosmology and cosmogony, and on the plane of human ecology, the question of fire and of its pharmacology. The question of fire, that is, of combustion, is thus inscribed in the perspective of both physics and anthropological ecology at the heart of a renewed thought of cosmos as cosmos. The Anthropocene epoch can appear as such only starting from the moment when the question of the cosmos is itself grasped as that of combustion in both astrophysics and thermodynamics, but therefore also in relation to this exceptional pharmacon that is domesticated fire as that artifice par excellence brought to mortals by Prometheus. As a physical problem, the technological and industrial conquest of fire, which is the eragnist of Gestalt, puts anthropogenesis, that is organological organogenesis, at the heart of that Whitehead called concreteness, and does so as the local technicization of the cosmos. This may be only a local technicization, but it leads to conceiving cosmos in totality on the basis of this position and on the basis of this local opening of the question of fire as that pharmacon of which we must take care as atomic fire. And here the question of the energy and energia, and this is different, that fire, which is also light, contains, after chronological and epistemological revolution that occurs with Schrödinger, rethinks thermodynamics, constitutes the matrix of the thought of life and of information that is awake, and thus so as the play of entropy and negentropy. Establishing the question of entropy and negentropy for human beings as a crucial problem of daily human life and of life in general, and ultimately of the universe in totality, techniques constitute the matrix of all thinking of oikos, of habitat, and of law. At the very moment when Schrödinger was giving his lecture in Dublin, Georges Canguilhem was arguing that the noetic soup is a technical form of life, and that it requires new conditions of fidelity in order to overcome the shocks of infidelity caused by what I myself refer to as the doubly or redoubly. The infidelity of the technical milieu, that is what the organological and pharmacological beings that we are noetic individuals encounter in the form of epochal technological shock. This shock and this infidelity are essentially what Simon refers to as phase shifts in order to describe the dynamic principle of individuation. We should recall here that Canguilhem posits in principle concerning the more than biological meaning of episteme. Knowledge of life is a specific form of life conceived not just as biology, but as a vital knowledge of meanings, systems, and processes of individuation, where knowledge is the future. Here the concrescence of the cosmos generates processes of individuation in which entropic and negentropic tendencies play out differently in species. We must relate this organological function of knowledge, a use function in the sense of what in the technical form of life to Simon on account of knowledge of individuation. For Simon, to know individuation is to individuate, that is, it is to already no longer know because to undergo phase shifts, to become out of phase. Questions of life and the theory of entropy deriving from the contemporary Anthropocene seems to the sense of user space acceleration of entropy, not just because it is a process. Here the concrescence of information that is the way, and so as the play of it requires new conditions of fidelity in order to overcome the shocks of infidelity caused by what I myself refer to as the doubly or redoubly. The infidelity of the technical milieu, that is what the organological and pharmacological beings that we are noetic individuals encounter in the form of epoch, no longer know because to undergo phase shifts, to become out of phase. Questions of life and negentropy derive from Darwin and Schrödinger, but these must be redefined in relation to the organological context, given that first, natural selection gives way to artificial selection, and second, the passage from the organic to the organological displays the play of entropy in negentropy. Techniques to the accentration of negentropy, since it brings increased differentiation. But it is equally true that techniques is an acceleration of entropy, not just because it is a process of combustion and of the dissipation of energy, but because industrial standardization seems to be leading the contemporary Anthropocene to the possibility of the destruction of life, the burgeoning and proliferation of difference, the destruction of biodiversity, of cultural diversity, and of the singularity of our state individuation and collective individuation. With the concept of process, Whitehead moves beyond natural phenomena and cultural phenomena as forming an opposition. And this is also the very meaning of anthropology. Anthropic activity has become a geophysical fact. In Whitehead, cosmology is no longer a matter of the order of the spheres, but a processful dynamic to nested spirals that materialize regimes of speed. And here, thinking would be that infinite speed of the power to rupture, that is, to cause bifurcations, in the sense of doing, by disautomatizing repetitive regularities and by changing the rules. Power, which is knowledge, and which Whitehead called also history. not in the sense of user space. This power to change the rules, however, also establishes a risk of intersystemic conflict, which von Bertalanffy studied in his general system theory, which inscribes the pharmacological question at the center of cosmology, and does so as the organization of cerebral faster. The pharmacological question at the center of cosmology, and does so as the anthropotechnical, biospherical, and local consequence of the initial combustion of its universal thermodynamic law. This is why Whitehead could write that, I quote, "The major advances in civilization are processes that all but break the societies in which they occur." Hence, to change rules is to go faster than light, insofar as the latter has become at the speed of digital automata, the horizon of the calculation industry. It is to go infinitely fast, at the speed of desire, that is, of the idealization via which negantropy passes on to the plane of consistencies. This raises the question of the laws of the universe constituting the field of physics and forming the set of rules of a game we cannot change, but that we can localize, that we can play by interpreting it in a localized way, that is, by liberating potentials for individuation through the artifactual organization of inorganic sidereal plane, which occurs, for instance, with that nanophysics that emerges from quantum technology. Techniques consist above all in the organization of organic matter, leading in return to the organological reorganization of cerebral organic matter, which in its turn organologically modifies the play of the somatic organs, giving rise to a new form of life, that is, of negantropy, which is nevertheless also as techniques an accelerator of entropy on every cosmic level. It is this two-sidedness that characterizes pharmacotoxic use and an example of a nanotechnological organ is the scanning tunneling microscope, which is itself a computer. This arrangement between the cerebral organ and the quantum scale of hypermatter is a stage of increases that here also runs to the process of monetization. Theory and here also runs to the process of monetization in the larger sense, operating on all cosmic planes, sidereal, vital, and psychical, that is, technical. This localization is a striking example of anthropotechnical on the play of the biospherical ensemble within it spreads and generalizes by locally generating this extraordinary stage of concrescence, that is, the anthropocene. While respecting the laws of physics, techniques locally transform the cosmic order in ways that are not predictable. Hence, the concretization of the technical individual, that is, the machine, the functioning of which is not soluble into the laws of physics, as shown by Simon, tending to form associated techno-geographical milieux that, according to Simon, requires a mechanology, but which I believe it is more fruitful to understand as an organology. Mechanology allows us to think neither ecology nor the links between technique, between psychic, technical, process, concretions, disturbances, infidelities of milieus, every metastable that is metastable equilibrium, all form what age presents itself as what we are causing within ourselves, around us, and between us, a projection of a becoming that we can no longer see on the basis of our organological and pharmacological in transforming into a future that is at the processes of psychic, technical, and collective, that is social individuation, through which and in which we are always in the three dimensions, bound by their mutual organological condition and limits set by Ian. With the control of pretensions by a capitalism that are become structurally anthropic, the contemporary Anthropocene seems to condemn a psychic and collective individuation to being wiped out by a technical individuation that has become subject to a self-destructive economy, given that it destroys the social milieu without which the technical milieu inevitably becomes a negative externality that in turn destroys the physical milieu. The theory of anthropology as what we are causing within ourselves, around us, and between us, a projection of a becoming that we can no longer see on the basis of our organological and pharmacological in transforming into a future that is at the processes of psychic, technical, and collective, that is social individuation, through which and in which we are always in the three dimensions, bound by their mutual organological condition and limits set by Ian. With the control of pretensions by a capitalism that are become structurally anthropic, the contemporary Anthropocene seems to condemn a psychic and collective individuation to being wiped out by a technical individuation that has become subject to a self-destructive economy, given that it destroys the social milieu without which the technical milieu inevitably becomes a negative externality that in turn destroys the physical milieux of the biosphere. The organological approach is constitutively situated in time in the sense that its object is becoming, and its question is the transformation of becoming into future, which means that what is at issue is the transformation of entropy into negentropy. It is a practical approach by becoming for which there is no complete theory, no approach requires inventiveness, if not it requires an inventivity. It would be the pharmacological and organological counterpart of what Whitehead called creativity. Within such an approach, we must begin by describing the situation in which we now find ourselves organologically and pharmacologically immersed, and on the basis of which we can succeed as Dasein for the Historialität, Geschichtlichkeit of a being there organologically, that is, a being there pharmacologically, in the sense of Strata-like too, I agree with that. But there, historiality is not conceived as in Heidegger, namely ontologically, but as in Simondon, that is, as an ontogenesis, but where this is understood, contrary to Simondon, as an artifactual ontogenesis. According to such an approach, our situation at the end of November 2014, aside from the widespread recognition of the inherently pharmacological dimension of development, is marked by the new and unprecedented questions presented to us by digital technology.